This is Your Anxiety Toolkit, episode number 182. Welcome to Your Anxiety Toolkit. I'm your host, Kimberly Quinlan. This podcast is fueled by three main goals. The first goal is to provide you with some extra tools to help you manage your anxiety. Second goal, to inspire you. Anxiety doesn't get to decide how you live your life. And number three, and I leave the best for last, is to provide you with one big, fat virtual hug. Because experiencing anxiety ain't easy. If that sounds good to you, let's go. Okay, well, welcome back, friends. So happy to be here with you. How are you? How you doing? It's nearly April. OMG. I can't believe it. I really can't. But I hope that you're doing well. I hope you're taking care of yourself. I hope you're celebrating your wins. If you've had any, I hope you're slowing down and reflecting on the struggles that you're having, if you're having any, and really connecting with your heart space on, is there any solutions that might be helpful for you that are also very effective and kind and bring you closer to the life you want to live. Now, the reason I say that is it is exactly what this episode is about. Now, I am often very humbled by your questions. And sometimes I get so excited and I'm talking about ERP and therapy and the treatment for OCD and treatment for anxiety that I forget to slow down because I get asked this question, what is ERP? And so here I am today sharing with you exactly what ERP is. Number one, because everyone should know. Number two, because right now we are almost done with our launch of ERP School. ERP School is a course that teaches you everything you need to know about ERP to get started and even to finish out your practice of ERP. So that is there. If you're interested, go over to cbtschool.com/products, or you can click the link in the show notes of this episode. Or if you're on Instagram, you can follow me there. I'll be having all kinds of links there. I'm so excited to share this course with you. Hundreds of people have taken it. I have gotten so much positive feedback, including we also have ERP School with CEUs. CEUs is continuing education units, and that's for clinicians who are learning to be an OCD therapist. And even the therapists have given amazing reviews on how much it has helped them. So it's almost 7 hours worth of training for the price of less than one session with an ERP therapist. So go over and check that out if you're interested. But if not, and you want to just listen to this episode, that's fine too. Let's talk about ERP. Okay, so what is ERP? ERP is exposure and response prevention. Some people call it ritual prevention, which I actually think is more accurate, but technically and typically we call it exposure and response prevention. Now, what is that? Okay, let me give you a brief history. Back in the day, we used to actually use all these terrible techniques for ERP that have very low success rates. And then a clinician, a psychologist, created exposure therapy, which is where we expose people to their fears. So if you were afraid of dogs, we would expose you to pictures of dogs and then videos of dogs and then dogs, right? Then we'd probably ask you to get a dog. That is exposure therapy. And they found that to be highly successful. The OCD community celebrated, and they started with that treatment. Over the course of time, there was more research added, and they found that doing exposures alone is good, but it doesn't completely address the whole picture of OCD. Because OCD isn't just obsessions, it's also compulsions. And exposure therapy didn't really address compulsions as well as it could. So what they did is they tacked on or added on response prevention so that now you would expose yourself to the fear and then you would do response prevention, which would be you then not engaging in the compulsion to remove the discomfort, uncertainty, anxiety, whatever it is that you're feeling, right? So exposure and response prevention is a treatment that addresses both the obsession by exposing and the compulsion by doing response prevention. Now, this is groundbreaking, and the research has shown that the outcomes are really, really good, which is wonderful because for many years we did not have a great treatment for OCD. And since then, we've actually added on other modalities to make it even better, right? There's inhibitory learning by Michelle Krask and her team. There is acceptance and commitment therapy. There is compassion-focused therapy. There is mindfulness-based cognitive behavioral therapy. All of these additional modalities have really kind of been like, how would I explain it? Like the icing on top. Really, I guess is the best way to say it, is it really helps to increase motivation, to help tools to manage the discomfort while your discomfort rises and falls. And so ERP School, just again to mention, has a lot of those additional modalities as a part of it as well, right? Because anytime we can add to a treatment to make it even more successful and robust, we will. And I do that with my patients and clients as well. Now, the thing to remember is a lot of people will say, but what if I don't do a compulsion? What if I just have obsessions? Is ERP good for me? And I'll often say, we have to be really careful not to say we don't have compulsions, because most often there are these hidden compulsions that no one knows to even look for because you can't see them. And those two are avoidance and mental compulsions. Some people, you would never ever see them. You wouldn't even know they have OCD, and yet they are struggling and suffering with mental compulsions all day, every day, 24/7 in agony because they're ruminating and mentally reviewing and playing out potential scenarios. Could this happen? Would it happen? Do I want it to happen? What does that mean about me? That is really important to recognize. Like I said at the beginning, we want to reflect on that and identify what the problem is so we can get help. Avoidance is also a compulsion that is not visible to the eye, and another really important one that we address, right? If I'm afraid of flying on an airplane, you wouldn't know day to day that that's a fear of mine, because how often would I fly on an airplane? No one would know that I avoid that. If you're afraid of a color, let's say, a lot of people would never notice that you're afraid of the color because you've successfully figured out how to avoid that color or thought or thing or event or person. So we really, even though if you're having obsessions, it's important to identify the mental or avoidant compulsion we're doing. And we would use that as a part of your ERP as well. So we would do the exposure, and then we would practice the person then not avoiding. Or we'd do the exposure and we'd practice then not mentally reviewing and trying to remove the uncertainty by mentally doing rituals. Super, super important. Now people will say, but what about me? My obsession is so disgusting. It's so perverted or graphic or violent or horrific, right? And I would say, no, we still do exposure. It's really important if you have violent, sexual, physical, religious, relationship obsessions that completely gross you out or completely concern you or make you so confused about who you are and what your worth is and what your values are. We still would do exposure. We would practice exposure. The exposure is actually, again, exposing you to things that you're avoiding, but maybe even exposing you to your thoughts. And then the response prevention is to practice not treating those thoughts like they're important, because they're not. Even though they're really horrific and scary to you, we want to get into the practice of not treating them like they're so important. It's so, so important that you understand that. We can't be treating these thoughts and obsessions like they're important, because when you do, you feed the disorder. You feed it, make it nice and strong. And we want to make it weak. We want to starve it by not giving it our attention, by doing exposures and saying, you do not scare me anymore. I will purposely face my fear and I will not do that compulsion. OCD, you do not have control over me anymore, right? And through this practice, there is this revolutionary shift. I wish you guys listening, if you could see me right now, my eyes are closed. I have a big fat smile on my face. My fist is clasped into like the fist, and I'm so like, yes, this is what happens. If you could see when people practice staring their fear in their face, they're empowered and they feel like there's no fear or thought or sensation or urge that they can't handle because they've practiced having them and they've practiced the art of not doing compulsions to remove the discomfort. That is what exposure is. Now, I bet by now, if you're still listening, congratulations. Some people at this point are like, nope, no, thank you. And I do not blame the people who have already canceled out. But let me tell you something you really need to know, which is this does not need to be all in right away. In ERP school and offered with my patients and clients, or if you're doing it by yourself or you're using a workbook, we do what we call gradual hierarchy ERP, which is ultimately you start with an easy exposure and you work your way up. And that is so good. That is so okay. I celebrate that method. You don't have to. If you have an area that you really want to hit, even though it's super hard, you can go straight to the hard stuff. Or if you want to, you can pace yourself, work from the bottom up to the top. Either of those are fine. Again, I celebrate any method where people stare their fear in the face. So that's ERP. In a nutshell, is it easy? Oh, no, it's not easy. Is it hard? Oh, yes, it is hard. But what am I about to say? Say it with me, everybody. It is a beautiful day to do hard things. Can you do hard things? Absolutely. Why? Because you do them every day. Right? Even if you shake and you struggle, you're handling hard things every day. And I think you can even do some more. I really believe that. I really believe that. So again, if you're interested, please do go over and you don't have access to an ERP therapist or you don't have the resources for an ERP therapist. ERP school was built specifically for that reason. Now, I'm going to be honest with you. If you had a choice to see an ERP therapist face-to-face or online to online, I would always encourage you to do that first. But ERP school is for those who don't have access or they want to boost their already treatment by getting 6 hours of robust training. Sometimes people take it, they're already in therapy, but they take it sort of just to get like inspired again, hear different therapists' point of view, right? It's going to be the same concepts, but delivered in a different narrative. So even if you're in therapy for OCD, you can still take the course, but it was made specifically for those who don't have access. So it's important. I want to disclose that to you because that was the main function of why. Now, if you're a therapist and you're listening again, I have created this course. It has been CEU approved because I also see a great need for therapists to have access to not crazy, ridiculous, expensive training. So it is there as well if you're interested. And that is it, right? It's just there for you if you want. The good news is, in addition, is it won't be long until in October, my book about OCD will be out. And you can also add that to your tool belt as well. Remember, Your Anxiety Toolkit is about gathering helpful tools in your tool belt. So whatever works, that's up to you, right? All right, my loves, I love you guys so, so much. If you enjoyed this episode, please do leave us a review. The reviews really help us, and we will be giving away a free pair of Beats headphones as soon as we hit 1,000 reviews. I would love to see your thoughts. I read them all. I love seeing them. Thank you so much for supporting me. And I know that this is taking up your precious time, so I really do hope it was helpful. Okay? I am sending you the biggest virtual hug, the biggest warm love wishes. I hope you're doing okay. It's been a really tough year. You guys, just sending you much, much love. It is a beautiful day to do hard things. Do not forget. Please note that this podcast or any other resources from cbtschool.com should not replace professional mental health care. If you feel you would benefit, please reach out to a provider in your area. Have a wonderful day, and thank you for supporting cbtschool.com.